Santorelli again. Being hounded, but he gets it over the blue line with a pass to Richardson. Cuts wide, center for Bieksa. Kevin Bieksa in overtime. And the Canucks, after giving up the late equalizing goal, have beat the Islanders 5-4 in overtime. And it looks like Bieksa tapped this one home on the centering feed from Richardson.
Come from behind win for the Vancouver Canucks last night in Long Island. My name is Tyson. Joining me, Emad as usual, and we got a special guest in store today for you, Mr. Jared Featherstone. Jared, how you doing today?
It's great to be here there, Tyson. Really happy.
I know. Everyone loves being here.
We made a waiver claim.
We did. We actually picked him off waivers yesterday morning. Just a little transaction detail. Couldn't get the job done yesterday, so we had to push the podcast for today. So it's good to have you here, Jared. Of course, we're going to go talking all NHL today. And we may as well start going through each Canadian team. All of them in action last night. A war of words, I guess, in Montreal and Edmonton with Lars Eller and Dallas Eakins. What'd you make of that whole situation?
Well, you know what? I really didn't mind Lars Eller coming out and saying it because he's just calling it like it is. I mean, there's the fact that he's the young guy.
Yeah, if it was a veteran player saying that, I would be okay with it. But Lars Eller, and like Eakins said, it just fueled Edmonton. You don't want to wake up a team with all that superstar skill, and they ended up losing the game. So it didn't work out for him.
How much of that do you think is just lost in translation because he doesn't really speak very good
English? Hey, well, you never know. Like Lars Eller, Eakins said it. You know what? Let's just actually take a listen to that clip because we actually have it, the war of words between these two, and then we'll touch on it just after.
It's hard to say, with this team. It's it can be anything. They play a little bit like a junior team, I think, sometimes.
Things like that you don't even really need to go play them. When you have a player like Lars Eller running his mouth before the game, it makes for a great banter in our dressing room and a great motivation. So we thank Lars Eller for his comments before the game.
They take a lot of risk, a lot of chances, and they're a little all over the place.
Lars Eller, Dallas Eakins, with that banter of words, and I gotta agree with you, Jared. The whole thing with Lars Eller saying that, I'm not gonna put it past him. That was, it's comedic. You may as well. It's right before a big game. Two teams that don't see each other very often at all. With Montreal being in the East and Edmonton out here in the West, but I'm not gonna disagree with the whole junior fact. These kids were just playing junior a couple years ago, so there might still be that mentality with the team. But Dallas Eakins firing back, supporting his team, I don't mind that either. It's how it should be done.
I think it's directly a shot at Eakins and his coaching staff because that's what he was brought in to do, is turn what is pretty much a junior team, pretty accurate statement, turn them into an NHL team. And so far this season he hasn't done that, and that's what Lars Eller was pointing to, and that's what he meant by what he said there. Well,
the Ottawa Senators, big game today. They weren't in action last night, but they definitely playing today. Big game for them. It's not a homecoming of sorts just yet. They still got to play 2 times in Detroit before that actually happens. Their former captain, a player who's been there for 18 years.
Big Red.
The big saga that went on this offseason with Daniel Alfredsson leaving. Do you think he's fired up for this game, or is he just waiting for this game to be over with, and then he can just rest and get back to normal?
You know what? On the outside, he's gonna be pretty calm. On the inside, he's fired up for this game. Like, he's coming back home. He wants to show the Ottawa fans that he didn't leave just because of the money. He left because he had to go win a cup. That's why he left.
Yeah, and he's not a young guy to pretty much display his emotions. He knows what to do. He's a veteran. He's seen many players change teams and come back, so he'll handle it well. It'd be interesting to see what the Ottawa fans.
Well, the original game for the homecoming for Daniel Alfredsson, December 1st, is when it's going to go. But this is the first time the two teams are going to meet each other in Motown, I guess, in Detroit. So Daniel Alfredsson has his new fans, I guess, behind him, and he's just going to be facing his old teammates. I know he's got friends on that team, very good friends.
It is a short trip, though.
It is a very short trip. It is. No, he's down the highway. I don't even know what the hell it's called.
There's a bridge from Windsor to Detroit.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what Daniel Alfredsson can do with the Detroit Red Wings tonight, and just see if he can get back to that pace that he was with the Ottawa Senators. But he hasn't really looked out of sorts so far this year. He's banged in a couple goals so far, and they've been pretty nice goals playing alongside Zetterberg as well. So we'll see if he can maybe put one past his former team.
Another note on that game, Nick Cronwall, who was injured last week, will be returning to the lineup, and that's good to see. There's been a story about him actually taking a puck to the face in the pregame skate today, but he's going to be stitched up and back out there. That's going to be a rough game for him.
Wow, all tough guys in the NHL. Everyone knows that. So they're not going to miss games if they don't have to. It's just a puck to the face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jared knows all about it. You've done
I
it,
played.
so
I played for a few years, and definitely taking a few pucks to the face, a few cross checks to the back of the neck. Yeah.
As a fantasy manager of Nick Cronwall, I'm happy with that too.
There you go. So, of course, Ottawa Senators, Detroit, that's the big game going on tonight. And, of course, you got Boston, Buffalo. Going to be another decent game. We'll see. Not two teams same level, I guess. Ottawa, Detroit, we'll see about that. Of course, Detroit in the Eastern Conference this year. But I also want to get into what Claude Noel said about his hockey club on Monday for the Winnipeg Jets. He mentioned that if he could have 20 brand new guys sitting up in the press box, he would rotate them all out for a new team because his team's not producing right now. His team's not doing it right now. And you got to say, Claude Noel, I think it's either do it now or bust because he's had his time so far in Winnipeg since coming over. He hasn't gotten results. Is it time for a change yet in Winnipeg?
Well, he's definitely on the hot seat right now, and I think, judging by the way the team's playing in front of him, I mean, there's a very good chance that he's lost the room.
What the worst thing they did last year is, set high standards for themselves, almost making the playoffs, when not many people thought they were going to do as good. So now that standard has to be met this year, or else the team's not, or the fans, the ownership, not going to be happy. So a lot of pressure in that city, and the fans there, pretty crazy, and they are expecting a winning hockey team.
Well, it doesn't help with shootout loss last night to the Washington Capitals, who are on their Western road trip swing now. They got the Canucks on Monday, they got the Oilers coming up, and they got the Flames on the weekend. So Washington, Alex Ovechkin getting the job done once again last night. He's up to 9 goals, league leading 2 goals. So Ovechkin, maybe the rumors I've heard so far is he's trying to play his absolute best just this year, of course, with the Olympics being in Russia this year. But people have said he's got 7 years left at $70 million, I believe. Do you think he's going to return to the NHL after the Olympics are done?
Well, you know what? I think he is. I think he is going to because he wants that Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Say the Washington Capitals win the Stanley Cup this year, then I'm worried that he leaves.
Yeah.
Because he more so than other Russian players really wants that cup, really wants that pedigree, so he can return home, go back to Russia, and just brag to all his friends or whatever he wants to do.
I do agree with you there. Do you want to chime in on that, Emad?
I honestly, it depends how Russia. I think it'll depend on how the Russian team does in the Olympics. If he goes there, gets a good supporting from the fans, they win the gold medal. He has a bad season in Washington, then those all will play a big factor. But honestly, I do not believe he will leave the NHL. I mean, it's the best league in the world. He's going to get more hype in the NHL. If he does leave, people will forget about he could have been one of the best players to ever play the game, and he'll be forgotten. So and just judging by that, I don't think he'll leave, but we don't know. He's an interesting guy, and he'll make a decision on what happens.
Well, I've already forgotten about Ilya Kovalchuk, so he retired. So,
Exactly.
hey,
Alexander Radulov.
Yeah.
I
Who?
forgot about him too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly that. But I believe Ovechkin's got a little hockey sense and smarts that I don't think he'll just pack up and leave once he gets the job done over in Russia. But hey, crazier things have happened in the NHL.
Speaking of Kovalchuk there, what do you guys think of that of Fedorov coming out of retirement?
Yeah, I heard about that too, and I was like, what?
Canucks need him.
Yeah, you may as well sign him up, throw him in front of the goal, put him on the
talk
fourth
to his
line or
brother
something.
Feder and get him to convince him to come over.
Yeah.
Fedorov
Fedorov had a very good book actually about his time in the NHL.
Really?
Him and Sean Pronger, remember him?
Yeah.
Good buddies. So they teamed up to write a book, I believe. So might have to check that one out. You
I'll
never
have
know.
to buy that one.
Yeah,
on Amazon.
Some big names right
Interesting to see what he would have to say about Berkey.
Yeah.
Yes.
there. Yeah. So
Speaking of Brian Burke, he's got a decision to make as well with Sean Monahan.
well, he's actually past his 9-game mark now.
Yeah.
So
he's staying.
he's gonna
And
stay.
That's a big call for the Flames to make because I know there was a lot
but I
of
don't
talk.
think it is.
Well, I know it's the right call, but a lot of talk in Calgary was to send him down. I mean, what are the Flames going to be doing this year? Not much, and a lot of talk was to send him back down. But I believe they made the right decision with keeping him up here because he's not going to get much development playing in the AHL if he's having.
Well, he goes straight back to junior
if he's having so much success in the NHL, then he might as well stay. 6 goals, 3 assists.
When you're tied for second and team lead in goals
it's the
with
Flames,
6,
so.
Yes, it's the Calgary Flames, but we have to talk about how much of a surprise they've been this year so far. People came out of the gates just slipping these guys down in that 30th spot, and they're going to get that number 1 pick next year. They're just going to making themselves a case. They're playing in one of the toughest divisions in the NHL with the new realignment, of course, going on, and they were sitting in 3rd before last night's loss. With the win over the Ducks, who they were able to snap their 7-game losing streak on Monday, I believe that was. So the Calgary Flames are getting the job done, and this 6th overall pick, Sean Monahan, what a kid he's been. 9 games, 9 points, 6 goals, and he's going to the greasy areas to get them. He's not sniping them down the wing all the time. He's going to go to the front of the net, and he's going to bang them home, and we saw that on Tuesday night.
For Brian Burke's case, or the coaching staff, let's hope that continues, and let's hope that's the right decision. It's too early to tell now. There has been rookies who have had, shorter stints. I mean, starting out the NHL careers,
and then turned out to be great.
Dropped off. Or dropped off. So it's too early to tell. But I think that's what you had to do, especially with the fans. Like, what is there to be excited about a Flames game if Sean Monahan gets sent down? There's really no reason.
The future looks bright because you look at the forwards for the Calgary Flames for going into next year, this is their last year of their deals. Mike Camilleri sitting at $6 million a cap hit. Of course, cap's not an issue with the Calgary Flames right now with all the kids they have, but when you look to the future, Camilleri's going to be UFA, Matt Stajan's going to be UFA, Lee Stepniak, and then TJ Gagliardi, who they picked up, is going to be an RFA. So Tim Jackman, another veteran on the team, which is pretty funny, especially when you say Tim Jackman is a veteran of an NHL team, especially with what's gone on in Calgary. So
part of the core.
Oh, exactly. And it's what do you look for the future and the Calgary Flames future? If they're drafting, I know people have hamped on them for their drafting in the past about Jay Feaster and what he's done, especially what he did last year, picking up the high school kid when they could have gone for something a little more skilled at that 20th pick, I believe. But I think the future looks bright for the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it'll be interesting to see how he structures his veteran core around over the next couple of years. Like you said, with Camilleri leaving, with Matt Stajan leaving, or possibly leaving.
And some of these guys might not want to stay to be part of that rebuild process, like the likes of Robin Regeer, Jay Bomeister.
Do you bring in veterans that have won, or do you keep the veterans you already have? Because you look at the situation in Edmonton where you kept the veterans that you already have, and they're on a perpetually losing team. And you look at where they are right now, and it really hasn't panned out.
And that's why you look to a model like the San Jose Sharks. Seriously, who have they lost? But who have they gained in the process of coming up with their young kids in the drafting and rookie? They haven't really changed much of that core roster. It's still there, with the likes of the Tomas Hertls coming up, the Logan Coutures, all these guys just filling right into that lineup and fitting right in. And I like San Jose's model so far.
And same goes with Chicago. They did that a few years ago. And I guess what you do now as a manager is to look at what the Oilers have done and do the opposite, because they've been blessed with all these young stars, but they haven't done anything.
And now they're going to have to trade one to get a number 1 goaltender.
They're not going to be able to re-sign number 1 overall picks every single year.
Not in a cap system.
And their goaltending is not acceptable. And so, just look at what the Oilers done and do the opposite, and model yourself after the Blackhawks, the Sharks, even LA. I would say.
Yeah, LA's done good for themselves, of course. Stanley Cup 2 years ago, but I believe the Edmonton Oilers are. If they don't make playoffs this year, things are going to happen, and I think it's.
You gotta feel
out with
bad.
the old, in with the new. Get rid of the Kevin Lowe's, the Craig McTavishes. They don't need to stick around in this franchise.
It's the biggest old boys club in the league.
It is. Yeah. It really is. So, hey, you never know what could happen. The Edmonton Oilers might go on a 10-game win streak. Yeah, don't see it happening, but you never know.
I feel really bad for Dubnyk on that team, because he's a way better goalie than his stats indicate.
If he had a team in front of him to play for, and it wasn't all about the egos, and it wasn't all about the egos on that team. I think they could be a very talented hockey club, but it's all about who's better, and
And I don't have his numbers right in front of me, but I know he posted solid numbers last year on a losing team. I think his save percentage and his GAA was like, you look at it and you think that team's going to be winning, and there it is. They're bottom of the league yet again.
Yeah, with a 0.921 save percentage, 2.57 goals against average. That's not bad on a hockey club that's been dreadful for so many years. Hey, it's Devin Dubnyk. He's, 27 years now, 27 years old. He might want to change, but he likes it in Edmonton. So it's all up to him, I guess, if he demands a trade out of there. You never know what could happen, the former Kamloops Blazer. So, hey.
There's talks about Reimer and Edmonton.
And the Miller.
Yeah.
Miller for Yakupov straight up, which I don't know. If
That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Miller doesn't want to go there. That was one of his teams he didn't want to go to. So
He's limited no trade.
Yeah.
But if you're Ryan Miller, like, at one point do you can't be too picky playing in Buffalo. So at what point do you just say, whatever, get me out of here? Yeah. Especially with what has gone on so far this season. Yeah, you feel bad for that guy.
Well,
and he needs to be playing on a winning team.
Well, he does.
He's getting older, and then the U.S.
He wants
team,
a cup.
And the Olympics is coming up, so he needs to be playing at his best.
Yeah.
Doesn't help him when his team puts up 1 goal a game, and he's letting 3 goals in, and he loses. So,
but it's not like he's been playing terrible.
No,
it's just he's got nothing, like Devin Dubnyk, nothing in front of him to get something going.
If it wasn't for Miller in the first period of the Canucks game, it would have been down with a lot more goals than 1-0.
Yeah, I would. And 11 seasons there. Maybe it's time for a change. And Ryan Miller will see with that saga going through the entire year. But since we are in the Lower Mainland, we may as well talk Vancouver Canucks. And another win on the road trip last night in Long Island at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. It's like, what? Okay. But 5-4 comeback win. 2 early goals for the Islanders. We thought maybe this one's going to get out of hand right away. The Canucks, they relied on their key players to get the job done, and they got it done.
Boy, that Islanders power play looked good last night.
Oh.
Eh?
Yeah.
Oh,
wow. Yeah, it's been a problem with the Canucks, especially now. Is the first goal of the game. Like, it seems like every game it's one that they have to come back.
And it's also given up the last goal of the game in regulation with under 2 minutes to go, under 90 seconds to go, and they've done that a couple times so far.
I don't have a problem with that as much because it's happened twice, and they have gone on to win those games. If they do,
you can't rely on that every time, though.
No, of course not. I mean, it's a fine line to walk because when you're up in a game, you're playing Torts' style. You're not sitting back and playing defensive hockey. That's the old.
The Alain Vigneault
But
system.
look at both goals. It's been 6-on-5, and it's been a point shot that's bounced around and it's been banged in. Hasn't been.
But it's a face-off win in your defensive zone, and
they
clear.
did win the face-off, and Chris Tanev had a terrible shift on that last goal.
Yeah,
win the face-off, he can't get it out, then he half blocks a shot.
Well, it happened in Columbus too on the weekend when he gave up that eventual game winner, and we made the offensive pinch, got by him. Higgins was back. They had guys back. It's just when your D-man jumps up.
It might be a case of Chris Tanev. I mean, he's got 5 points so far.
2 assists last night.
Yeah, it might be he's going outside his comfort zone. I mean, we didn't expect that guy to be putting up points, and we don't really need him to.
But at the same
this kid's 23.
If he just sticks to what got him the job on this team, and the coaching staff and fans and
I don't know. I like him getting more involved in the play.
I do.
But if it's a direct cost of him playing less defensively and getting caught up on pinches, then maybe not. But we'll see.
Vancouver's been missing that stay-at-home D-man since the Willie Mitchell era.
And
the
Dan Hamhuis was that guy until this season. So
and I think really, go ahead, Jared.
I think he's really just having a bad stretch of bad luck.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's in a rough spot. Yeah. It's in the doghouse, I guess, so far for John Tortorella. But Tortorella's going to play him each time. But speak of the forwards now, going into your top guys are the Sedins, the Kesslers. Kessler's over 28 minutes of ice time last night for the Canucks. And it doesn't help when one of the forwards in Mr. David Booth gets a healthy scratch before the game. And what do you guys think of this? Like, I think this is something to look forward to with John Tortorella's head coach, because if you're not producing, you're not going to play. And he did that $4.2 million for David Booth. He's in the press box.
I saw that coming, the scratch of Booth, because think about it. With no Burrows,
I just thought it was going to happen when Burrows got back.
Yeah, and with no Burrows in the lineup and all the line shifting, David Booth did not get a single shift on the top 6 at all. And that just means a slow decline into now what he is a scratch. He'll obviously be back in the lineup because Hansen doesn't look like he's going to be returning. But that's something I hope serves as a wake-up call. And if not, I mean, we got ourselves another contract.
Well, how many years does he have left on his contract?
I
think
gotta
it's
check
this
that
year
one.
and
I
the
believe
next.
it was.
That's what
I
thought
think
too.
2 years,
2 years
including
left.
this one.
Yeah.
I can't be. I'll check that out. But yeah, David Booth. I don't know if he can even thrive in a hockey market like Vancouver. I think he likes his Floridas, but
I think Mike Santorelli has been everything that they wanted David Booth to be.
Oh.
And David Booth is not shooting the puck either. I mean, I think this is right, but 11 shots in 10 games. That's not
good enough for a power forward that you're expecting to produce at least like 50 points in a year.
Yeah, well, he should be producing at least 50 points a year. We've seen it done before. We've seen Ryan Kessler do it before with the 41 goals, and that's why people expect him to do it each and every year because he has done it before. But if you're not producing, then the fans and media are going to get on you.
And it's the move to scratch him is something that I don't think AV would have done ever in his tenure. And that's something that's refreshing to see with the addition.
But he was never healthy when AV was here either, so it was.
Yeah, but I don't see AV going out first scratching a player and then coming out and saying openly that he's not doing enough to play. I mean, he was scratching Keith Ballard, but he wasn't really going out and making it known that he's not happy with Ballard. He was
always
dodging
saying
the question.
He was always saying that I just like the way these guys are playing.
Yeah.
He would just never call out a player like John Tortorella would.
And conserve is a good thing. You got to wait and see, but sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that wakes you up, and I mean, my coach isn't happy with what I'm doing. Maybe I should do something different or work harder. I don't think it's a work ethic. It's just him as I mean, he didn't get a preseason, so it might be a case of him just playing his way into shape and playing, without really having the preseason. So it might take him a little bit longer, and it might not be. It might just be the fact that he's too slow for this league.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how he responds to this because he's such a positive guy.
We saw it last night when he was in New York when he was walking into the building as a healthy scratch. He still had that smile on his face. He never loses it. He was talking to Murph
and you know what? Maybe this message is just gonna fly over his head because with positive guys like that, they kind of don't respond well to this sort of criticism.
It's not what they're looking for.
Yeah. Well, and now with Jannik Hansen going down last night. This is another chance for David Booth to jump back into that lineup with only 11 forwards technically up on the roster that are available, and having like a guy like Andrew Alberts who played one shift in that first period on the fourth line, not going to help much. But you look to the AHL, really? Who do you got to come up? You got the Zach Dalpe experiment already gone. Do you want to try him again on that fourth line? Do you go and look to a guy like maybe Darren Archibald? He could come up. He hasn't played, but these guys have barely played in the NHL. Darren Archibald hasn't actually played in the NHL yet. So what do you think, like with the Vancouver Canucks and their depth for this year and what they have available? Because they can't go back to junior and call one of their prospects up unless it was an emergency
you can do
recall.
Emergency recalls,
but that's only if you're really hurting for guys.
Yeah.
And I don't really, off the top of my head, see a move that they could make right now. I mean, you can't trade David Booth.
You could, but it'd probably be a buyout you'd have to, or waiver wire to get rid of him.
Some salary or something like that would probably make the most sense with him.
Yeah. So it goes down the list. You don't know, but Canucks a huge win on the island last night. They got 2 games left on the trip. New Jersey tomorrow, and then a huge game against the St. Louis Blues on Friday. I guess we're gonna have to get into it, Jared. Of course, we've been debating this all the time. Zach Kassian, yes, we've talked about him tons, but
he did score last night. It was called off, but that was a great shift. I thought
he had a great game last night. The last 2 games he's played, I think have been his best.
Well, I didn't like him in Columbus, Pittsburgh. I'll give you that, but Columbus, nobody really showed up in that game, anyways. Last night, he had a decent game. I didn't notice him tons. Of course, he had that disallowed goal, but I guess maybe it's an improvement for Zach Kassian, who's played 6 games so far this year.
Yeah.
But I expect Zach Kassian to be I guess a constant 25-plus goal scorer in this league. And I just don't see it yet at the age of 22.
He just hasn't done that yet.
Well, I know he hasn't done it, but
you can't expect him to be a 25 goal scorer if he has never done it before. You know, you gotta kind of look at his versatility, and that's where his real worth is. Because you can put him on the fourth line as a guy, and he can go out and bang bodies for you, and that's gonna be fine.
Yeah, but even if he drops the gloves, it's not like he's a consistent fighter. Like, he's had 9 fights in the NHL, and he's only won 3 of them, and it's.
Well, with what
kind of player do you see as Zach Cassian as for this hockey club?
We don't know. That's the thing. That's what I was saying last time. Is if you want him to be a goal scorer, you put him up with the first line. And
why?
You keep him there.
He's had that experience. Yeah, and he did good for 5 games last year at the start of the year, but then he just tailed off. So AV pulled him off. But John Tortorella doesn't even trust this guy yet with the Twins.
Well, he was going to beginning of the year. I just think if you want him to be a goal scorer, you play him on a line with setup men. And if you want him to be a bruiser and chip in some goals here and there, you keep him where he is right now in the third line. And if you want him to be just like a fighter, then you put him on the fourth line. They just need to give him a role instead of just bouncing around from line to line. That's what I think, and that's what hasn't happened in his career in Vancouver. So
or in Buffalo either. He didn't get that fair shake there.
So I think
he played like 31 games out there, but
they need to give him a role, and they need to give him a season, not 20 games, not 10 games. Give him a full year in that role, and if it doesn't work out, then go in different direction. That's what
if there's any indication towards his system this year, that's just not going to happen. He's not going to give anybody a full season.
No, he's not, and it's you don't produce, you're not going to play. We saw it last night, and when I look to the future of the Vancouver Canucks and what it looks like down the road, say 5 years from now, I don't see Zach Cassian as a top line player for this hockey club because of what the talent that has come in. I see Zach Cassian maybe as that second line, third line guy, but I don't see him as a top line guy with the likes of Shinkarik, Horvat, and Gauntz coming in. Nick Jensen, who's still hurt right now, depending on what he can do. I just don't see Zach Cassian as that skilled forward that could be that top line guy for this hockey club.
And that's okay if he's doing what he needs to do to help the team win. If he's playing a second line winger or a third line winger who contributes 10 or 15 goals a year and gets the penalty minutes.
And you never know. Like, did you really picture Todd Bertuzzi coming up and being a top flight premier forward in the league when he first came into the league?
And really, how long was Bertuzzi top of the league scoring power forward? 1 or 2 years, and then he dropped off. I know it's not a good comparison because of all the things that happened in Todd Bertuzzi's career. But
he's still going now.
He was only an elite superstar guy for about 2 years, and he was playing on one of the best lines in the league at that time. So you drop him in on a line with not as skilled forwards, and maybe Todd Bertuzzi never scores over 40 goals in his
he
career.
had some time with the Sedins back in the day, and he was getting a few points when they were still rookies in this league. But yeah, I don't think you can make the comparison between Todd Bertuzzi and Zach Cassian. But
no, and a lot of people like to because of the body style.
I
don't think there is.
People have said that Zach
comparison.
Cassian's a Milan Lucic type player. We have not seen a sense of that one bit since he's come here in that trade back in 2012.
And the one thing that always strikes me with him is he's 22 years old. He's so young, and he's got so many years.
Look what
in
you
the
give
league.
up for him.
Yeah,
you give up a guy that is stuck on your third line center, who really should not be on your third line center.
Yes, he shouldn't be. He should be in the top 2 lines. But that's why you look. If Cody Hodgson was under John Tortorella, he could have possibly been second line when Kessler was struggling.
Or he could have been down in the A.
Well, he was
at if he's not playing well on the third line under Torts.
But technically, right now, he could be that second line center here in Vancouver with Henrik and Kessler playing on the same line.
Yeah, if Kessler's playing on that first line, for sure.
Which it looks like they're going to continue to do because it is working. So I think Kessler is thriving more now as a winger with his Twins because Henrik's at first. He looks for the pass every time, and he's going to fire it across for Kessler. He doesn't have to worry about what's going on in his own zone. He's an offensive type player now, and he's actually doing some damage. 28 minutes of ice last night, and I think Ryan Kessler doesn't have to be that go-to guy on the second line. He has to play at either end of the rink. And he's focusing on just the one thing, and that's getting shots through. This guy's shooting the puck a whole lot more than what we've seen over the last couple of years.
And I think the Selke Trophy winning Ryan Kessler is not here anymore. I think that was just a one season kind of guy.
One-trick pony, yeah.
I think what we need him to do now, or the Canucks do, is just be a goal scorer. I mean, they should,
They
like
need
you
the
said,
offense.
Load up.
take the responsibilities off him on D,
Yeah.
and not match him up with the top players on the other team,
That's fair.
and give him opportunities on the power play, give him opportunities with Henrik Sedin and Daniel Sedin, your top players, and let him score goals. And even the PK, even I know he plays a lot on the PK, but I would limit his time on the PK just to limit his time on the ice. 28 minutes, how long is he going to be able to last playing 24 to 28 minutes a game, especially with his injury?
Well, if it's on the
past?
offensive zone, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But that of course is down when you have 10 forwards on the
Yes.
team last
Right,
night.
exactly.
So
When you're playing Andrew Alberts, your replacement, a total of a minute and a half or 2 minutes or whatever he played last night, then other
And
people
I
are gonna
don't
have to
get
pick him
why
up.
you get players and bring the guys like that into the lineup if you're not going to use them.
it's to fill the roster.
Yeah.
You have to, right?
Yeah.
And you got to
It's
address your
just-
18
it-
guys. And this is a knock on Alberts. He's just not good enough to fit in that top 6 right now. And I don't think he ever will be. And I think when his contract expires at the end of the year, he's going to be gone.
He's definitely going to be gone. I don't think.
He doesn't
in my
deserve
own,
a
in my
spot
own
on this
opinion,
team.
I don't think he's ever really deserved to be in that
Oh,
top 6.
never.
Compared to other guys, other options we had on the back end.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at guys like Tanev that were getting healthy scratch last year under AV, and Alberts is in, and you just shake your head. Ballard's out, Alberts in. Why? How can you do this? He makes every D pairing.
I don't think Ballard was ever given a fair shake here under AV. I think
No.
Ballard and Tanev was a solid D pairing when they were together, when they had the chance, and Ballard wasn't worried about what his coach would think about him after the game, because it was all negative energy towards Keith Ballard from AV after the games, and it didn't work for Keith Ballard, but I'm glad that he's in Minnesota. He got a fresh change of scenery, and that's all over. But I guess that means that we should change topics.
Well, before we do, and I just want to say how good Kevin Bieksa has been this year, and that's one thing that's really, really helped out the Canucks. When you look at the team,
Someone should tell him it's his contract year.
yeah.
You know?
if you look at the defenseman on the team, he leads them by far in plus minus, and the guy doesn't get much power play time too. So that's one positive. I think he might be the best Canuck so far this season. I know he's not putting up the points. Him and Luongo got to be up there, but just showed what he did last night, especially on the
Game winner.
the Higgins goal, the game winner.
He's doing everything away from the puck to make sure
Yeah.
that puck is moving forward and
Yeah.
getting in the other team's net. and
That's a
staying out.
guy you got to keep here. He's definitely
He's here
one
for
of
the
your
next 4
cores.
years or
Yeah,
whatever. So
yeah.
he's definitely got a spot here on this hockey club in that top 4 mix, and definitely good Ontario boy for sure in Kevin Bieksa.
Good old Grimsby native, eh?
You know it, right? So, well, Jared, I guess do you want to stick around?
You know what? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah,
Okay, we got a couple of things to go through. We got Lions, of course, this weekend. They got a game. It's Saskatchewan. Edmonton, sorry, what am I talking about here?
Saskatchewan
I
last
just,
weekend.
Hey,
yes,
they play
yes,
Saskatchewan in the playoffs.
Yes,
for
yeah,
sure,
well, that's
but,
for sure. And Calgary can clinch first in the West with a win over Saskatchewan. But Lions, still no Travis Lulay. What's going on? Do you think DeMarco can take it?
No, and I think what he's proved that he can't. At first, when
It was a
Lulay-
short-term fix.
When
really.
when Lulay got injured, and I was actually at the game, they had Thomas DeMarco come in to finish the game, and he had a couple series, and he looked good. So that got him the start next game, and he played well, and he kept playing decently well, but it's run out, and he's not playing well anymore, and it looks like Buck Pierce is not healthy. So they need Lulay to come
What's
back.
new, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's
exactly.
new? Buck Pierce on the bench with an injury.
So and also a problem with the Lions is they've relied a lot on the defense to get them to where they are now, and they've relied a lot on playing in BC Place. They have 3 wins on the road all year. They're gonna need 3 wins on the road to win the Grey Cup. So if they don't have a healthy Travis Lulay and their defense playing top notch, then I don't see them going to the Grey Cup. I don't see them even winning a playoff game, especially going into those winter climates in Saskatchewan, in Calgary. It's going to be hard. and they
It's not
need.
that cold there. Come
Hey,
on,
hey,
man.
it is if you're playing in a dome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but
If you're wearing tights and hitting other dudes, then yeah, it's probably pretty cold out there.
well, when you think about it, the Lions should have a win in their bag this weekend over the Eskimos, with how bad they've been. But you can't really count any team out.
You can never really count out Mike Riley, but I mean,
can't.
at the same time, you can definitely put a few question marks around that whole defense with J.C. Sherrick on. I mean, you really, it's ripe for the picking for the Lions this weekend.
There was some good signs out of the game against Saskatchewan. Their running game with the return of Stephon Logan looked a little bit better. Andrew Harris looked pumped up. He only had 4 carries, but he averaged nearly 7 yards per carry. But
3 straight losses for DeMarco, though.
Yeah, he's not going to be the guy
that's going to change.
That's going to take him to the Grey Cup.
No.
They do have a playoff berth booked already, so I think they just need to use these last games to just get on a roll, get their defense going. That's what's going to win them any games, I think, from now on, is the defense. And they need to just hand the ball off and keep it's 10 turnovers. That's not going to win you any football games in any league. It won't, not in high school, not in college, not in CFL. So I think it was just a game that they need to write off and a losing streak that they need to write off and go into the playoffs with some momentum.
And with Benavides having full backing of DeMarco, it's going to be we'll see what happens this weekend. The Eskimos just going to try and play spoiler, so we'll see what goes on with the BC Lions. But it's been a disappointing year, 9-7 on the year. It's not from what the form that they were a couple years ago when they were able to win the Grey Cup. But do you think they'll ever get back to that form that they were? If they can just
the magical season will not be repeated.
Do you think they can get back to that form in any way? It doesn't have to be a magical season, just the form of
that season. It was the form of a just emerging Travis Lulay. Andrew Harris was just emerging. They had the receiving core with
Elamimian just coming into
Arlan Bruce, Giroy Simon. That team was good, and they showed it. Going on that ridiculous streak after starting 0-5, and winning the Grey Cup at home. I don't know if that's the form that they'll ever reach in the next few years. It seems like a cycle with the Lions. Every 4 or 5 years they'll put a team together, and that's what normally the CFL is all about. So it might take a couple of years.
That it will. So not much on the of course the Lions, of course, without Lulay. So can't really talk too much on what's going to happen this week and just preview that. But another team here in the Lower Mainland, disappointing finish, I guess. The Vancouver Whitecaps all but done, I guess. They got 1 game left on their regular season schedule. It's the second part of their home and home with the Colorado Rapids at BC Place on Sunday night, 5 p.m. kickoff.
They just really couldn't get anything going last week.
They couldn't. You're speechless to talk about what's going on.
It was a heartbreaking game if you're a Caps fan or if you're involved with the team, because I thought they didn't play overly too bad. I watched the game. They scored 2 goals on the road, which isn't easy to do. They had a lot of pressure. It was almost unlucky. The penalty call against them in the first half, questionable, and also you can't defend on the third goal. Just an absolute cannon of a shot, top corner. So they are unlucky. I thought they played well because, again, there was a must-win game, and if they could have just sneaked out of Colorado with a tie, then we could be going into this weekend's game with a lot on the line. And it's sad to see. I did like this team. Now, there is talk of Mane moving to Europe next season, so it doesn't look good if you're a Caps fan.
With 4 goals in his last 2 games, that's
he was just getting on form, especially in the last 2 games.
And I think if this season could have extended a little longer, we could have really seen the brilliance that this kid possesses at 18 years old.
And he was unlucky not to score against Portland the game before as well. Yeah. So there's another superstar. Well, I mean, I don't know about another, but a superstar that
the Caps could lose.
You could have used, especially with what they have done drafting.
And we saw that Davide Cumiento went over there as well after his first season with the Caps. He still has a heart for Vancouver and one day might just return. But the future does look bright for a couple of the kids if they're able to stick around here with the Whitecaps. And maybe the future doesn't look so bright for Martin Rennie.
I think the Martin Rennie, he's a good coach, but I don't know if with the history of going through head coaches as the Whitecaps do, and as most MLS teams do, I don't think he sticks around. And I think the back line needs to be
it's not gonna
switched up because Carlisle Mitchell was shocking in that game, and Jay DeMerit has been a staple for the Caps.
YP Lee retiring after the year.
There you go.
So
that back
that's
line,
a loss right
Jordan
there.
Harvey, you don't know if he's going to stick around either.
Now, do you switch Jordan Harvey over the right with the emergence? And we're going to get to see him for the first time on the weekend at left back. Sam Adekubi, 18-year-old kid. The Caps have first homegrown player that they've ever signed. He's a kid that's I've actually got to see him firsthand play. I've played against him when I was out in Calgary in his minor soccer days with the Foothills Saints. But this kid can be a positive bright spot for the Whitecaps. He loves it here in Vancouver. I don't think he'd ever look to leave unless he really got that opportunity over in Europe. But he's 18 years old, and he's going to get a chance on Sunday. Not many Whitecaps fans have seen him play yet, but I really think there's a positive sign for the Caps in getting young guys into the lineup early. And I know it's just going to be for the one game, but maybe look for bright spots. You mentioned, Emad, with that back line with the Caps. What's going to happen there, really, like when you look past this year?
I think what you need to do is pair Jay DeMerit, because I think Carlisle Mitchell and Jay DeMerit are the same type of center back. They both are the bruising, brute kind of guy that goes up for every header. I think you need a combination of DeMerit, who is that guy, and then a safe, stay-at-home playmaker center back. So I don't know who it's going to be. That's the kind of center back they'll need. And I don't think Manning or Kobayashi is going to stick around, so you need more offensive players as well. They weren't having trouble scoring goals, though. They were just keeping them out of their net, especially late in games. And I've talked about this on this show before. The coaching staff does have to be blamed for those late goals that they have given up this year. And you lose a lot of points when a team just scores one to tie the game late or just scores one to beat you. And how many points do they need to get in the playoffs? 3. So,
and we'll see what goes on with the Whitecaps going into the off season. See if Martin Rennie sticks around at all. But the future is, I guess, up in the air for the Whitecaps right now. They'd have to go out and get some quality players to fill those holes that they're going to lose.
It's tough because every season since coming into the MLS, they've made a step forward. Now they're stepping backwards. So you don't like to see that. And I still have a laugh because they've done much better than the Toronto FC, and they've only been in half as long as they have.
Yeah.
That's a joke of a franchise, that's for sure.
Well, one big thing, I guess, starts today. Everyone is talking about it around here. Jared, you know what we're talking about, the World Series, of course. Do you have a winner just yet? Do you have a team between Boston and St. Louis?
Do I have a team? I'm looking at Boston.
7 games?
I'm looking at Boston, and I'm thinking, like, how can you beat this team right now with Koji Uehara pitching like he is?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, I think both teams have pitching. That's for sure. Hitting, the offense for St. Louis is a little bit better, and the fact that when Boston plays in St. Louis, they won't be able to field a DH, and that's going to be a big factor, and always is in the World Series. But Boston's just so stingy. They find ways to win. I mean, what can you think of other than those 2 big home runs in that Detroit series as far as offense for Boston that got them through? So if you can get through a series with pretty much your hitters struggling offensively, except for 2 grand slams, then you can't find ways to beat this team. And especially with what's gone on with them being written out to begin the year and a new manager, and of course playing for the city of Boston and Boston Strong thing.
Strong, yeah.
So it's a story that I think will continue. And let's not forget, last time these 2 teams met in the World Series in 2004, it was a 4-game sweep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't think it's going to be a 4-game sweep this year. I think it will go. I'm going to say go in the distance. I'm going to say it's going 7 games.
Yeah, I definitely see that too. Lackey gonna pitch tonight for the Red Sox. So
I just hope that it's going to be a good series as far as entertainment value, because I know for a fact that these are not two favorite teams in the MLB. Like a lot of people do not like Boston and St. Louis just because it seems like they're in it every year. So there's a lot
knock
of
the top teams off then.
there was a lot of hope for teams like Pittsburgh and Oakland to finally make it, but it seems like at the end of each year you got the same teams, and I've never seen that happen more in other sports than it has in baseball. So if you get the right winning formula, it doesn't really matter who you have on the field and penciled in. You just gotta play it towards a system that you know is going to get you there. And that's what these two teams have done.
And I think that definitely contributes to I wouldn't say plummeting, but definitely dropping ratings for all the baseball played.
Yeah,
for postseason baseball.
It's because, say if you were it's related to the NHL, and if you had a LA Boston, as if you're a Vancouver fan, and you saw them over and over in the finals, you're not going to
quit
watch
watching. You'd quit watching.
Yeah.
Oh, well, me and Emad talked about this a couple weeks back, though, on the podcast about how we like the format of the baseball playoffs, how short and sweet it is. We also do like the element of Game 7s, but when you look at the baseball format, it's been a pretty good format. It's one and done right away, but the World Series is what everyone talks about. And I think predictions here, I'm going to go Boston in 7, but hey.
I tend to agree.
Anything can happen, eh?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Boston in 6, but yeah, I think Boston will be favored to win the series just by their pitching so far and by the play of the bullpen and the guys that they have in the lineup. Not necessarily guys who are superstars, but the guys who always come up with the clutch hit and the clutch play, and that's really what it boils down to in baseball. How good your players play at bat. Per at bat in what situation?
Case in point, Shane Victorino.
Yeah,
I mean
the guy. He's been hurt since mid-season. He's actually a switch hitter that's only batting right because of rib problems, and he was. I think he was in a 2-for-21 slump or a 1-for-21 slump before that home run. And there was a key stat where before the game-tying grand slam in Game 4, David Ortiz was in a 0-for. I think 12 slump as well or something like that. So yeah, see guys coming up to the plate and making big hits in big times, and I think that you'd see that more of that out of a team like Boston than St. Louis. But it should be a fun series to see, and it starts up tonight. And I do like what I do like about the baseball playoffs is they play almost every night. So it's not going to last long. I'm pretty sure we'll have a good idea who's going to win the series next week. Yeah.
So, of course, World Series starts tonight, 4:30, first pitch. Pacific time, I should say. Boston, St. Louis. It's going to be a dandy. We'll talk about more of that next week. One more note, though, I want to mention. I think you guys have heard about it with the whole linesman. It is back on the NHL topic, but linesman stepping in when helmets are removed in fights now. Do you believe there's already a penalty against a player who actually takes his helmet off before a fight? But if both players do it, they're both going to get that 2-minute minor. But right now, if both players do it, they're going to step in right away and just not let the fight happen. Do you agree with this, or is that just taking fighting right out of the game almost?
Well, you know what? That's the only way you're going to be able to get that rule enforced is if you actually step in and say you can't fight if you take your helmet off.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if more people try taking each other's helmets off, like we saw in the preseason a couple times where refs just didn't know what to do with that.
It's smart, though, right? Because the helmet comes off
Good way
in
around
the fight.
it, yeah.
I don't know. It's just too many rules right now. You can't fight with a visor. You can't instigate. You can't.
I think they're softening the
instigate with
league
the
way
visor.
too much. It's just I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, the thing that I think is the most logical thing is to take staged fighting, like the off the face-off fighting, out of it, and just leave in the fighting that happens after a cheap play or two guys just battling, and then I don't know. It's hard to.
I'm the exact opposite, because the way you see fights happen when they're just kind of off the cuff, a lot of the time they're not merited. They're just basically one guy's jumping on the other. In case in point, you look at the Todd Bertuzzi, Steve Moore incident. Somebody gets really hurt because he doesn't even see the guy coming. Mm-hmm. Whereas a stage fight, you're right off the bat. You let them know you're coming. We're gonna go, and you're both ready for it. You're both willing to accept the parameters of what you're gonna do.
Yeah, and that's all right, but then you have guys on your team that just are there for fighting.
Mm-hmm.
That's counterproductive if you're trying to develop a league where you want more scoring, but at the same time, fans do come to the game sometimes to just watch fights. So it's a really tough situation, and you can go both ways and argue against both ways, as you said. So
Last thing, Franz Nielsen, suspendable offense last night with that hit on Ryan Kessler, yes or no?
I don't believe so, because not a repeat offender, and it wasn't. There's
Well, you
no
know what?
injury.
You don't think it was blindside? You don't think it goes against Rule 48?
Honestly, it looked like more of a shoulder than
The elbow does come up.
And the thing is, he didn't get hurt. Now, I've talked about this before. A lot of these factors play into see if he's suspended or not, especially if the guy gets hurt, and especially if it's a repeat offender.
Well, just look at a couple games ago in the same team, Michael Grabner,
Yeah.
not a repeat offender.
I think he can
Kirby
get 2
doesn't
to
get
3
hit.
games.
Yeah, I think he gets 2 games. Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I mean,
Yeah, well,
he comes across from the blind side,
Gets the elbow out.
Well, it wasn't even the elbow; it was his
It
shoulder that
counts
hit,
like a chicken wing
hit
there.
his head right there. Right?
and just go off that. I know you saw that, but anyone see Mark Spector on Twitter?
Yes, I have.
Oh my
I
God,
have not seen it. What happened?
He's anti-Canuck, right? But
Oh,
he's
okay.
anti every Canadian NHL
I think
team,
he's
so.
more anti-Canuck than he's.
Well, he went off on
for
the Flames
Oilers.
last night too, so I don't.
He just likes conflict, I guess, on Twitter. I don't know. His tweets frustrate me.
Frustrate people, but people follow him because they know they're gonna get something out of him, and really the only way to get back at that is just unfollow him completely. I haven't done so yet.
I can't seem to do the same.
I don't know. It's too much out of my time to actually unfollow someone, so you never know. But we want to thank Jared Featherstone for being on the program today. It was
nice
it was a
having you
beauty.
in
Yeah,
today,
thanks.
buddy.
Thanks for inviting me over. I'd be glad to come back again sometime.
Well, definitely love to have you for sure. Emad, that was it was a pretty good one so far. It's
Yes.
going along.
We apologize for the late podcast for
Oh.
our loyal followers and listeners, but we got it in there.
We did. So
It's a busy time at BCIT, as many would attribute to listening.
for Jared Featherstone and Emad Agahi, my name is Tyson Fedor. That is it for today, and we will catch up with you next week. Have a good one, guys.